Hello, everyone. So this talk is going to focus on how my organization helped California tackle the COVID-19 pandemic using our expertise in data engineering and analytics. And so today we're going to go through an introduction of myself and my organization, and then we'll jump right into the timeline of how we got involved with helping California fight the pandemic and go over the governor's COVID-19 dashboard task force that was formed early on in the beginning of the pandemic and how it's progressed to date. And then we'll discuss all the challenges that we overcame in working on this project and then provide a summary. So let's go ahead and get started. So introduction about me. I'm the CEO and founder of Analytica Consulting. Prior to founding my firm, I was the former director of analytics at Qualcomm for many years. Qualcomm's a large semiconductor down here in San Diego. Prior to my experience at Qualcomm, I was a principal consultant at Accenture working within their media and high-tech practice and focused on providing software engineering and analytics solutions. Overall, I have 20 years of experience working within the analytics space, providing software engineering solutions and working within IT. And I have multiple publications within several media outlets, so feel free to find me on Google. So our firm, Analytica Consulting, so we are a technology services organization, and we specialize in data analytics and data engineering and providing domain expertise in several different areas. We have a key focus in public health, healthcare, and life sciences, as well as biotech. We also work in other industries such as manufacturing, marketing, product development, finance, and so forth. We have worked with the government of California for the past 8 years. We've been supporting multiple agencies there, including the California Department of Public Health, the California Department of Technology, California Air Resources Board, and more recently, we started working with the Department of Toxic Substance Control. We also work with several commercial organizations such as Illumina, Qualcomm, and Becton Dickinson. We were voted best place to work in San Diego in 2022, and we've actually held this accolade for many years since 2018. So this is our 4th year winning that award. And our firm specifically focuses on providing solutions in various areas. So we focus on analytics, visualization, strategy, data engineering and architecture, as well as training on multiple technology platforms within the analytics space. So here's the timeline of everything that happened since the beginning of the pandemic up to a little bit towards the end of last year, and we're still working on this effort. And so we've been involved in helping California for the past 2.5 years, but I'll walk through this in detail. But in early 2020, as you all remember, the first cases of COVID in the community were noticed early on in Oregon, and then it started spreading beyond Oregon and eventually made it into California quite quickly. Very early on, we've been working within the public health space for many years. So what we decided to do was develop a dashboard, and I'll cover how that was developed, but we published that in several media outlets, and that gave us some recognition. And then, once this dashboard had quite a bit of views, we were asked by the governor and his team to join the governor's dashboard task force. And so once we joined that task force, we started getting involved in all the data engineering and analytics around all the COVID statistics out there. So we started developing dashboards and visualizations on case statistics and demographics, hospital bed and ICU availability, homeless impact. There was, if you all remember, when the counties were segregated and they were open and closed based on various metrics, we worked on the economic blueprint for reopening, and then focused more on vaccine distribution. So this is how it all began. So we were one of the first companies to build a dashboard to show case statistics back in February of 2020. And we aggregated data that was made publicly available by Johns Hopkins, CDC, and the World Health Organization. And this was a pure internal effort by my company. So we put some of our staff on this to build this very quickly. We actually developed this in about 2 days, which was pretty fast. And so this is just a screenshot of what the Tableau dashboard looks like. But we very quickly got notice about what we built, and we were published in the San Diego Union Tribune right on the front page. And so this started getting lots of media attention. And we sent this to some of the department heads at the Department of Public Health and the governor's office, and they very quickly got us involved in their effort. And we were awarded several emergency contracts to work with the governor's office, the California Department of Technology, and California Department of Public Health to basically help them develop something similar, which was, centralizing all of the COVID data into one central repository and then providing analytics on top of that. And so that's when we formally joined the governor's office COVID-19 dashboard task force. And this is just a screenshot of one of the early dashboards that we put out in early 2020. But the goal of this task force was twofold. One was to help enable public health officials on how to respond to the pandemic using real-time COVID-19 statistics. And then the second mission was to help inform the public and to develop a website, which is available now at covid19.ca.gov, and put statistics and information around COVID for the public so that they can utilize that for their own decision-making. This was a pretty massive effort. So we had to integrate data from multiple state agencies, which has never been done before. The state agencies of California and almost any state usually don't share their data too much. I mean, it's only done for specific purposes, but this was an emergency effort that hit pretty much every department in California. So we had to integrate multiple systems, multiple agencies into one system, and then develop statistics and visualizations on top of that. And so some of the, as you saw in the timeline a few slides back, some of the early statistics were very focused on, monitoring cases and testing and deaths. And then it started becoming monitoring hospital impact. So looking at ICU admissions and ICU bed availability, and then PPE and ventilator supply became an issue. So that, we had a lot of surveillance and monitoring around that. And then once the hospitals got really full in some of the large waves, we started helping with the effort to look at alternate facilities to house the patients. So Navy cruise ships and shelters. And then once the vaccines came out in late 2020, early 21, we focused and shifted our effort completely on vaccine distribution, which is a very massive effort across California. And so lots of analytics and data integration around those efforts. And so, as I mentioned in the previous slide, one of the largest missions of this effort was to help inform the public. And so we helped stand up covid19ca.gov. And that website's still available today. It looks a little different than this. But this is a screenshot of when the vaccines were rolling out. So, only 3 million cases so far in this screenshot, which was early in 21. And so this effort was to help inform the public. And so we started putting lots of visualizations and statistics out there on, how vaccines were getting distributed, how the cases were trending, and so on and so forth. And it's all available on covid19ca.gov. And so that was the mission, to help inform the public. And so here's some screenshots of some of the publicly available dashboards that were released back then. And these look a little different today. Obviously, there's many more cases. California is in the tens of millions of cases right now. But back when it was in the low millions, we had a visualization like this, which helped monitor cases and testing and deaths all in one view. And so this was actually used, a version of this was used internally as well for all the government officials to monitor case statistics. And we also were printing this out for the governor for his daily briefings every single day. And so we had to design this dashboard with a certain aesthetic to help suffice all of those use cases. The public use case to be embedded in a website, the internal use case, so that users could manipulate and aggregate and interact with the data. And then the third was to be able to print off of this all in one dashboard. So this is one of the dashboards that solve those three use cases. Here's another screenshot of an early dashboard. This was looking at hospital impact. So, looking at the number of patients that are positive and suspected positive results, as well as ICU patients that are currently in the ICU unit and how many ICU suspected patients there are. And then looking at the monitoring of available beds along with breakdown by county and a map that shows the number of cases in the hospital. And if you all remember, this is, when different counties were sort of segregated and every county sort of had its businesses impacted by COVID to help, ease the spread. We were able to stand up this map and help monitor the statistics to help counties open and close. And so the three statistics that were looked at for every single county, and every county was classified into, based on those three statistics, into three areas: widespread, substantial spread, or moderate spread. And so when there was widespread COVID back then, the county was essentially closed, right? All businesses that are non-essential were shut down. Substantial, certain businesses were allowed to open, and moderate was a bit more freedom. And so the three statistics that were looked at were the positivity rate per 100,000, and then that's on new cases, and then the total positivity rate over the last 7 days on an average, and then the ICU bed availability. And so we had to update these metrics every single day because every day businesses were closed was impacting the economy significantly. And so it's crucial to have these metrics be accurate and be real time so that decision makers could open and close their counties based on these metrics. So that was a key thing that we worked on, and it was right on the homepage of COVID-19ca.gov. Not available anymore because obviously COVID's fully widespread now, and the variants aren't as strong as they were back then with Delta and Alpha. So this is no longer used, but this is a use case that was critical to the pandemic response. When cases were high early on, and this was an emergency, there was an internal operations center, and this is a screenshot of what it looked like in the center. And so we helped build those dashboards that are highlighted. The ones at the top are the Hopkins dashboards that are showing worldwide statistics. And then the dashboards that you see in the left and right on the bottom, those are the ones that we helped develop. And again, as you can see, we've got the case statistics on the right and the hospital impact on the, case statistics on the left, hospital impact on the right. And so this was looked at every single day. And then the governor every day would have briefings talking about the positivity rate, because again, counties were opening and closing based on these key statistics. And so we were supplying him every single morning with the updated stats so that he can help disseminate that information publicly on these updates and then work with county leaders to open and close their counties. So I'm going to focus now on the challenges. So, as I mentioned early on, this was a massive effort. We had to help integrate data from many agencies. So, we had to integrate data from the governor's office, from the California Department of Technology, California Department of Public Health, Department of Social Services, Department of General Services, Office of Emergency Services, and that's just 6. There was much more than this. And so this is one of the first projects of its kind that seeks to integrate data from all these agencies into one central repository and then provide centralized aggregation and statistics out of that repository to help inform a massive number of individuals. And so how did we do it? So from a tech perspective, we partnered with Tableau and Snowflake. Snowflake was essentially the data storage, data aggregation mechanism running in the cloud and AWS. And so we used that to aggregate data from all the different agencies. And of course, the agencies were supplying data in multiple formats. We had to aggregate information from files and SQL databases and XML exports of data all into one repository, and then build views on that. And then once the views were standardized, we were able to develop Tableau dashboards on top of all of those views. And the key situation here was there was 2 big challenges. One, getting it updated every single day accurately. And so building those pipelines so that, it was as automated as it could be. And then two, making sure that it was accurate. And so, while we were in crisis mode, there wasn't time to automate a lot of this because we were dealing with a new use case almost every single day. And so this was quite a manual effort. We had a morning team and a night team, and the responsibility of the morning team was to develop new features and get those released out to the governor and his team and key government officials and the public. And the night team, their job was to get everything refreshed and QA'd and prepped for the morning team. And so we did that for a very long time, until, the crisis sort of slowed down and we were able to focus on, data pipeline automation to get a lot of the information in there accurately on its own with refresh automation on the Tableau side. And here's a sample day. And so, from morning to night, we would have daily stand-ups every single day. And as I mentioned, the morning shift, or we called it the day shift, their job was to get everything published and out to the governor, but then also work on new change requests. And so we did that 9 to 4, and then we had a handoff for the night team around 4:30 to 5. And the night team would come on just a little early to help refresh things and QA data, and then they'd work through the night on any pipeline refreshes, quality assurance checks, refreshing everything and getting it ready for the next day. And then we'd publish everything internally. On average, we'd finish that shift around 10 or 11, but there was many nights where we worked, to the wee morning hours, because data would come in late from multiple counties, or there was a surge in cases, or there was errors found that were, preventing us from publishing the next day. And so we did this around the clock for, I would say, about 2 years, until we were able to finally start automating. And this is, we're still running this process today. It's a lot lighter. It's not as intensive and it's much more automated. And we're about 1 or 2 months away from fully automating it. But as you can see, this was a pretty hands-on process and quite vital, because information needed to be sent to the governor every single day and needed to be accurate. And so, the other challenge was, making this available publicly, right? So, it's one thing getting everything out to the governor and his office and all the public health officials. The other is to make sure that it's available for the public. And we wanted to make sure that the public was looking at the same data on an aggregated version that the internal stakeholders were looking at. And so primarily the big use case for releasing it to the public was for research purposes. California has got a very large population, largest populated state in the country. And so this is a great use case for researchers to look at data and help identify trends. And so we wanted to make sure that the data was available publicly. So we would release our Snowflake exports and data dictionaries, and we still release them every single day now on COVID-19ca.gov, along with the dashboards, and then make sure that they're available real time. This link is still active, the COVID-19ca.gov data and tools. So I encourage you all to visit it, and you can see the data and download it and work on your own use cases. So in summary, this was a tremendous work effort, and it's still ongoing. Right now, we're focusing on, essentially 4 main areas. Now that we've got a lot of the case handling and vaccine distribution behind us, the 4 big areas that we're working on now are pediatric doses. As you all recall, the FDA and CDC approved provisional approval for both Pfizer and Moderna in the under 5 and under 6. And so we're monitoring that. And there's a lot of compliance and adverse events that we're looking at to make sure that, that gets reported, and then looking at uptake in those populations. And then we're also going to be, and we're setting ourselves up to monitor vaccine uptake for the new Omicron vaccine that's coming out, hopefully around September, October. We're also helping the CDPH monitor any new variants that are coming out, so new variant surveillance, and looking at if there's any new variants that are causing concern and additional hospitalizations. So we're constantly looking at that. And then, of course, monkeypox, as you all have heard in the news, we've started, setting up the framework to monitor cases there and vaccine distribution, obviously on a much smaller scale than what's currently done with COVID. And so this was an amazing effort to be part of. We, are very proud and we feel blessed to have had this opportunity to help California work on this emergency effort and help, pave the way for, future outbreaks should they occur, so that the technology is in place and, California can respond even more quickly than with this in place. And so I appreciate this opportunity to present to you all. My contact information will be available. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. And thank you so much for all of your time.